A weekend of high speeds and high drama for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, culminates today with the second leg of a doubleheader weekend at Road America. Yesterday, Windward Racing scored its first overall win of the season, while Racer's Edge and Triarsi Competizione took Pro-Am and Am class honors, but others were not so lucky. An early race incident has had major repercussions, with both US Racetronics and Turner Motorsport unable to answer the bell, but 14 cars are set to roll in just a few moments for round 10 of the 2022 season. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. We have Shea Adam down in the pit lane here at gorgeous Road America. I could tell you about it, but in lieu of that, why don't we take a high-speed tour of the track with Aaron Vogel and Real Time Racing in our track preview.
Hi, I'm Aaron Vogel, and this is the Porsche track preview here at Road America. We're coming down the home straight. This is coming at turn 1. Brake hard after the access road. You want to start bending it in a little early. You'll catch a lot of rubber right there, so it feels really good when you know you've got the apex a little bit wide over those rumble strips coming down past turn 2, which is really just a kink, into turn 3. Braking zone downhill, light off the brakes. A lot of throttle coming out of here. This is a long straight, so you really want to get turn 3 right. A lot of time here to kind of take a breath, relax, check your traffic. Want to try to, even though it's a straight, it's not really that straight, so you still always want to try to drive the shortest line you can here, coming down into turn 5. Hard brake between the 200 and 300 marker. Try to get as wide as you can. Holding that brake way long because we're coming downhill, and then on the throttle coming back uphill into turn 6. Turn 6 is just about balance. Really light brake as you crest the hill. If you have too much brake, it gets really light in the rear. Coming around here into turn 7. Turn in on throttle lift, back to throttle, and away we go. Down into turn 8, we come downhill in this braking zone, so again, it doesn't feel like it wants to slow, and then all of a sudden it catches up. Now we're exiting turn 8 over the rumbles a little bit. You gotta be careful there, they can catch you out. Coming into the carousel, upshift, a little short shift, and then you just stay on the throttle until you feel the car want to start to push, and as you're coming around down the hill, you're trying to add throttle, and then you come uphill here and way on the throttle, down this straight, into the kink. This is the most exciting part. Little lift, back to throttle. You're barely off the throttle here. You're going to use all that downforce. Down the straightaway into Canada corner. We're getting ready here. You always tap the brakes, make sure they're there. Hard brake, long braking zone here, and again, like turn 1, kind of bend it in, get those rumble strips. A lot of room on the exit there. Coming into turn 14, this one's kind of tricky too. Another no braking corner, just a lift and go. A lot of throttle coming out of there, a lot of track there. We can use all that access road, and coming in the last turn, 14. This one's a tricky one. It's hard to keep the car balanced. You just do what you can so you can get back to throttle early and have a nice drive out of that corner. And here we are coming back into the start-finish line. You saw pit lane there on your right, and that is your Porsche track preview here at Road America.
The first race held here at Road America was back in September of 1955, when Phil Hill in a Ferrari Monza won in a photo finish. The next chapter in this racetrack's illustrious history is about to be written with Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Looking forward to getting this race started. A nice field of GT3 cars about ready to go, and we'll turn them loose in just a moment from Road America. It is, of course, the second race of the weekend, though, here. Race 1 yesterday started with some fireworks, and we'll be seeing some highlights from Race 1 here shortly. But, Calvin, this was the car that came out on top. At the end of it, they started up front as well.
Yeah, they really did. Just a perfect start hit for Russell Ward from the pole. Felt late initially from Stephen Agakani. Bit of a battle there. There's Beretta around the outside of Chandler Hull as they try and negotiate turn 1. Everyone sudden's back in for turn 3.
This is when it all went wrong. Stephen Agakani goes around. Michael Dinan clips him. George Kurtz involved, as was Aaron Vogel. 3 of those 4 cars were eliminated immediately. Vogel was able to carry on. 2 of those 4 cars were done for the weekend after less than 3 quarters of racing. Good battles here throughout the pack. Pro-Am really was where the fight was to be found. Cooper and Sellers going at it at various times. And how about the K-Pax Racing teammates in this move from Jordan Pepper?
How close do you like it? Nearly ran over his teammate there. Just brilliant avoidance there. Great car control, and Jordan Pepper goes through to claim P2.
Late move from Mario Farnbacher to get around Bill Auberlen. That was for the Pro-Am lead, and Racer's Edge went on to claim the win in that class. But overall, Windward Racing, second win of the year, but the first overall. There come the Pro-Am winners through to take the checkered flag. Racer's Edge back out on top here in Elkhart Lake. Fun race yesterday. Unfortunately, it's a winnowed down field here today after several incidents. The one in the race yesterday, a few others throughout the course of the weekend have narrowed down our grid somewhat, but still plenty to fight for.
There really is, and for Andrea Caldarelli, he's on a bit of a drought. He went 10 wins in a row, dating back to last year, 4 back then and 6 to start the year this year, but 3 races in a row that he and Barretto have not seen victory lane, and today he starts deep in this field. Caldarelli rolls off from P8 today.
It's been a bit of a mystery. Both K-Pac's cars struggling for speed, but this number 1 car in particular, for whatever reason, seems at a deficit.
It does, and they've really been scratching their heads, and there's the best in the business operating there from the K-Pac squad, and they keep looking at data and trying to analyze and try to figure out, but car is just not happy on the brakes, has a bit of a straight line speed disadvantage compared to this car, the 3 cars, so this will be feisty here today with Jordan Pepper going to be starting this race. He'd love to go one better today and claim the overall win.
We'll see what they can do. Certainly, though, it was a fierce duel between the 2 teammates in race 1. That's in the Pro class. Still have a big title fight up for grabs in Pro-Am 2, plus a pair of Am-class cars about to do battle. Final preparations on the grid are just about complete. And with that said, let's go down to the grid where we'll find Shea Adam.
With Russell Roard. And Russell, we were joking yesterday, if every race could be held at Road America, Windward wouldn't mind. Well, it's another race, it's another day for winning, but it's made a little bit sweeter by starting on pole position. How important is that for Phil?
Yeah, look, I mean, it just makes everything easier. When you start at the front, it's just half the job is done already, and you just have to keep it clean and keep the guys behind you. There are a lot of overtaking opportunities here at Road America, so it's not going to be easy, especially with Farnbacher and the Acura behind us. But I think Philip's got the pace and he's got the skill to keep him behind, and then we come in, get a good pit stop, and just maintain, carry the momentum that we had yesterday.
You're running in the Pro class. The car alongside is Pro-Am. You made reference to that. How important is it to stay ahead of them, or do you sacrifice that at this point and just go for the Pro win?
Yeah, I mean, we're going for the overall win, and if they're in front, they're another competitor, and I doubt they're going to give us any leeway letting us by if they end up overtaking us in the first stint, and then we have to battle in the second. So I think it's important to stay in front, and everyone here, there's different classes, but all the cars are on the same playing field, and they all have the capability of winning. So we just need to keep that in mind and keep them behind us, which I think Philip can do.
Well, they might have the capability of winning, but you have the knowledge of how to get it done after yesterday. Congrats on that again, and good luck today.
Thank you very much, Shay. Cheers, everybody. Enjoy the show.
It's Russell Ward, who gave a lot of credit there to Philip Ellis, but he drove a great opening stint yesterday. That set the table for Philip to cap it all off.
Yeah, he really did. Great qualifying run, and then really controlled the race. Brilliant restart. So that really set the table for them. And with others having issues, particularly that spin with Stephen Agakani, unfortunately, in turn 3, collecting other vehicles. We're not going to see the Turner car or the US Racetronics car see the start here today. So the field is a little bit depleted. And this car was involved yesterday. This is the backup chassis. It's not the one that George Kurtz runs in GTA, but it's a backup car. And because of that, they have to move to the back of the field. A lot of work to do for Colin Brown in this opening stint here this afternoon.
Yes, they do, but they had good pace yesterday, certainly, but it is putting them on the back foot from a championship perspective. Pro-Am is still wide open. Of the 3 classes, this is the one with the best battle going down to the wire.
It is. They only have a 6-point lead now, and you got Jan Halen starting from row 3, Colin from row 7, so he's got a lot of catch-up to do. Otherwise, the Wright Motorsports team may move into the championship lead here this evening.
Yeah, they're there. Certainly, Farnbacher and Harrison with their win yesterday, that claws them a little bit closer, and you can't count out Bill Auberlen or Chandler Hull. Based on the pace they had yesterday, very nearly a class win. It came down to the wire, and a bold move around the outside for Farnbacher to take that win away from the Bimmerworld guys.
It really did. It was a great battle. It was nip and tuck all day long, right? But Bill Auberlen just had to give it up at the end of the day. Lost the balance in his race car. Tire degradation is always a factor here. And Mario did a super job there with that outside out braking maneuver into turn 5.
Engines are fired and the cars are out on track and rolling, making their way around, getting ready for the start of the race. On board here with the pole-sitting car of Philip Ellis. Frankly, inherited that pole. Laura Spinelli had the pole based on qualifying times, but that US Racetronics car involved in that lap 1 crash yesterday could not answer the bell, and therefore the pole goes to the Windward guys, and Philip Ellis will lead the field to green here in just a matter of moments. Philip Ellis at the front. He's got the Pro-Am pole sitters, Farnbacher and company, right behind him. And then you get into this nice little mix. Pepper for K-Pax and Oberlin for Bimmerworld. And this is where you find the DXDT car, Brian Sellers, behind the wheel. On board here with Aaron Vogel and Michael Cooper. This is the car that gave us a tour of the track and the track preview. Real-time racing from just down the road near Milwaukee, but it's not been the weekend that the hometown team was dreaming of.
It certainly has, and it's been a bit of a head-scratcher in terms of why they can't quite find the one-lap pace. They're stronger in the races than they qualify at, so they're always moving forward. But I really felt they did a great job yesterday. Aaron was involved in that little Schmalzman in turn 3 on the opening lap. Big damage to the race car. And they just kept working on it, kept the car on the lead lap, and Aaron just got up on the horse and just drove the car really hard. Excellent opening stint. Michael finished off the deal, and there was significant damage. I was at dinner last night, and Aaron showed me a photo of actually the wheel that was completely compressed. I'd never seen anything like it. So the outer rim was not broken, but it just took such a hit. The whole inside of the wheel itself was buckled, and she drove the car that way, and with great pace. So they keep tweaking on it. They're looking for a better day. Road America, their home circuit, they're a great success here in the past. They'd love to repeat here this afternoon.
That is remarkable because she was one of the ones on a charge even after that contact and after sustaining that damage. Michael Cooper had his hands full to keep it in position. They had a night to work on the car. It should be in better shape than it was for the bulk of the race yesterday. And the good news is, yeah, it did sustain some damage, but the hood was preserved. That's where all the fans have signed their names on the front of that Acura NSX GT3.
Yeah, the parade the other evening was superb. Just a great setting here in Elkhart Lake. As you see, close to 100 cars, I think we had come through the streets and settled down in front of Seepkins Resort there. Just a great setting, perfect evening, great vibe, and a great way to start this race weekend.
It is a truly phenomenal event. If you have a chance to join us on the Thursday of Road America weekend, that parade has become a fan favorite. It's become something of a tradition, modeled after what we've seen in the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa for many, many years. Here comes the field out of turn 14. The safety car has accelerated away, and it does look like it's going to be the Windward car of Philip Ellis leading the field into the VP acceleration zone with the Pro-Am pole sitter Mario Farnbacher sitting alongside Jordan Pepper, Bill Oberlin in row 2, Brian Sellers, and Jan Halen in row 3. We're about to go green. Into the VP acceleration zone, and the green flag waves over Road America. Windward Racing's Philip Ellis sprints ahead. The fight is on for second. Look how they fan out 3 wide further back. Big, bold moves up the inside as they funnel into turn 1.
Jan Halen, a brilliant start there. He slides his right motorsport Porsche up in a P4. Billy Oberlin on the back foot. Got swamped there at the start. Nowhere to go with it.
No, he's, wow, really mired back in traffic at this stage around the outside. Big move from Caldarelli. He, too, looking to make ground here in the early stages, going side by side with Halen now, working their way under the Sargento Bridge down to turn 5.
Look at Brian Sellers weaving around, trying to pick up the draft from Caldarelli. Here comes Bill Oberlin. It's going to be deep into this brake zone on relatively cold tires.
This track gets narrow quickly. Heavy braking all downhill for turn 5. They mostly do sort it out. Halen's got his hands full. He's able to gather it back up, but that opens the door for Sellers to come on the offensive.
He does. How much room does he leave Jan Halen on the exit of turn 6? Not much, but Halen forces the issue and maintains that track position. This is going to give Oberlin a run on Sellers down into turn 8.
Ellis sprinting away. Farnbacher slots in second, Pepper third, and then the fight is on further back. That looks like, oh, that was going to be a close moment. Corey Lewis taking a peek up the inside. of the Smithson car, and Colin Brown, the hood is up and blocking the windshield on the 04 car, the points leaders in Pro-Am.
Unbelievable. After the start yesterday, more drama on the first lap of the race here at Road America.
Oh, this is turning into a nightmare weekend. There is damage at the front of that Mercedes. Hopefully there's just enough of a gap for Colin to see through. He's clearly backed it off somewhat to try and make it back around to the attention of the Riley Motorsports crew.
Qualified the car up in the top 5, but this is a different car, so with the chassis switch, they had to start from the back, trying to make up some ground early. It's all gone haywire here. They need a yellow. They need a reset here to somehow get back in the game.
Well, first they need Colin to get that car back to the pit lane. He's done a remarkable job of it. I can't imagine. The vision is great looking out under the hood.
Don't see too much damage to the splitter, so if they can just get this thing taped down, going to lose about 45 seconds just coming down pit lane, plus the stop. Fortunately, it's a long lap here at Road America, in excess of 2 minutes in terms of time as well.
After one lap, Ellis leads Pepper. Farnbacher now third overall, Caldarelli and Halen the top 5. Brown has that car on the pit lane, and Shea is standing by.
They've got the Mondo tape ready to go on the front of this car, guys. They're going to try and hold the hood down with every extra bit of help they can get, and they've actually got a blowtorch out to try and expand it so that when they put the tape on, it will seal even better. Colin does have a bit of visibility under the center of the hood, but he definitely can't see straight out in front of him, so he's had to drive almost through the middle of the car, if you will. It looks like the hood is actually broken as well. It is split on the up of the left-hand side, and this has had some serious front end damage to this Mercedes. This might not be as simple as putting a new hood and some tape on, but the most important thing for the crew to check is the windshield cracked? Because if it is, by rule of racing in North America, would not be allowed back out onto the racetrack at all.
Great update, Shea. Thank you very much. The crew hard at work. This is a team that is well drilled in what to do in situations like this. Working in their favor, it is a long lap around Road America, but time is running out to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. There's no way they're going to get a new hood put back on there in the time this field is at top speed here, whistling around this circuit.
Can you run without one?
Well, possibly. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it'll do it with the aero and everything, but can certainly try and get the car out there as quickly as possible.
If it keeps you on the lead lap and you catch a yellow, then you're right back in the mix. That was the thought process from my standpoint. But again, they're going to have to hustle because this is the leader coming through the final corner, and that is exactly what Riley has elected to do. The hood is off, and in something that looks very much like a vintage NASCAR race, we have the former NASCAR driver, Colin Brown, out there without the hood.
Wow, what a weekend for that team, coming off the high of a big win overall at Watkins Glen, and now they find themselves very much on the back foot, and championship lead is vulnerable.
Meanwhile, it has been smooth sailing through the first couple of laps for Philip Ellis, the Swiss driver, paired with Russell Ward, who we heard from just prior to the start of the race. He's had a busy program for this Windward team in multiple championships on multiple continents.
He really has, and what a pace he's showcasing here at the front of the pack. His last lap at 206.0 is the fastest lap of the day, nearly a second clear of everyone else, including Jordan Pepper, who runs in P2.
I didn't exactly see how Pepper got around Farnbacher, but since he has done so, he's built a bit of a gap. Farnbacher, though, still the leader in Pro-Am, and he's got the buffer of Caldarelli between himself and his closest challenger, Jan Halen. That's the Porsche that just flashed through the screen. Then you drop back one further, Brian Sellers in the Mercedes for DXDT, and Bill Oberlin, who was absolutely swamped on the initial start. He's dropped back to 7th overall, 4th in Pro-Am. Don't see that very often with Bill.
No, Jan Halen got the jump on him from row 3 directly behind him, and Sellers to the inside, and he was just caught in the middle with nowhere to go. And that allowed Caldarelli to get the run around everyone as well. So great start for Andrea. Got that car up to P4, starting P8 on the grid.
Really nice start, especially with a car that just hasn't had the ultimate pace of many of those around it. Times those starts and restarts, that's a chance to overcome perhaps a perceived deficit.
Yeah, we often talk about the K-Pax team look like they're vulnerable, but so often they somehow come race day, tick all of the boxes, great execution, excellent driving, and definitely with a threat of another podium run here today, maybe even a little bit more when you see the second drivers jump on board here today. They certainly have some advantages there.
To give an update on where Brown is relative to the leader, it looks like it's about 1 minute and 44 seconds that he is behind. They're doing laps just over 2 minutes in length, so he's got a bit of a gap, maybe 20 seconds with which to work, but not running quite on the same pace as you would expect, running without the hood on that machine. On board we go.
Orblin there, just picking up a little bit of a draft, inching up on the tail end of Brian Sellers in front of him. Got Dirk Mueller, the DXDT sister car, right behind him. Dirk has had excellent runs here in the past at Road America. Many poles, victories in GT competition. Loves this circuit. Was on the back foot in qualifying yesterday. We had some drama in the practice sessions, and Dirk really got no dry running prior to getting in the car for qualifying here yesterday morning, so wasn't able to execute and get the ultimate lap time out, but he felt they had a good race car. But track position here is so critical to success. Even though you got these wide expanses and big deep brake zones, still hard to pass here in a GT3 car.
Finished 5th yesterday. That's where they run today. Dirk Mueller, who shares his car with team owner and driver David Askew, keeping pace with this battle. Halen appears to be holding this group up just a little bit. Caldarelli's starting to pull away and leave them to squabble over 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, the top two seem to be in a league of their own lap time-wise. They're running 3/4 of a second to a second faster than the rest of the chasing pack. So it looks like it's between the 33 and the 3 at this stage of the game. But again, as we'll see, be a little bit of a switchover in the Pro-Am combinations. The pros will qualifying, and the second graded driver in the lineups will be doing the second half of this stint. And sometimes there's a bigger delta between their performances.
Talking about the pace, Ellis, that last time by, with the crowd strike fastest lap of the race, 2:05.9. That's a full 0.3 of a second clear of Jordan Pepper, who runs more or less by himself in the second spot. But plenty of battles still to be found around this 14-turn, 4-mile course in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Ellis, the leader in Pro-Am, the Farnbacher, and Am to the Triarci Competizione team. No let up in this battle, although Halen might have more breathing room than he did the last time we checked in. Means it's Oberlin who's looking like he's the aggressor, having pulled in somewhat on Brian Sellers.
So evenly matched, though, all three of them running lap times within 1/10 of a second of one another. For Oberlin, I think the key is what adjustments did they make to that BMW? Certainly starting to struggle with his tires a little bit later into the stint. So evenly matched, they're even picking up the draft. He really doesn't close in on Brian Sellers there aboard the Mercedes AMG in front of him. This is turn 6. Crest the hill, almost blind at turn in. Then you drop down the hill, slight elevation drop here, and then it really plunges at about this point forward down into the brake zone for turn 8. Great rhythm through this section. They're using every inch of the road to turn in with, trimming the grass on the inside. Key is, can he keep that front end tucked? Couldn't do it yesterday, seemed to be washing out through that corner later in the going.
Lewis coming through the screen. New scene for Corey and Jeff Burton, the TR3 this weekend. That is an Opel Triarci. There's damage on the back of that car, and I wonder, might that have something to do with what we saw, the damage for Colin Brown?
Yeah, it's certainly pieced together nicely in terms of where they were on the grid and what we saw on that opening lap with Colin Brown in trouble. Brown's out there and he's running really nice laps, even though he's got a damaged hood. He's running lap times within half a second of the leader, so he's got pace, but he needs a big help in terms of compression of his field with a full course yellow.
Give a call to an Opel Triarci as well with the wounded Ferrari. Keeping Michael Kruger behind him. Drew Stavely as well. A couple of Pro-Am class cars with pros behind the wheel, and the Am class leader runs in front of them.
Yeah, for that Ian Lacey group running the Aston Martin had bit of disappointment at Watkins Glen. They really felt they were in great shape there with the performance of the car. Had a fuel cell that essentially disintegrated on them, so they couldn't see the start of either the race there. Had to retire the car from the race weekend. Here's Colin Brown with that hood gone on that Mercedes, but running really fast lap times.
Personal best, 2:06.9 the last time by. The leaders are doing low 2:06s, so half a second, maybe a little bit more between this car and those at the very front of the field. Colin Brown just trying to hang on and catch that yellow to get caught back up to the rest of the field. "12 minutes into this 90-minute race, Philip Ellis leads Jordan Pepper by 2.2 seconds. Those are the top two in the Pro class. Then you find the Pro-Am leader, Mario Farnbacher, for Racer's Edge. He's a further 3.7 seconds behind Pepper. After him, Caldarelli and Jan Halen, third and second in Pro and Pro-Am respectively. Still very early in the going. It's been all green despite some perceived contact between Colin Brown and Onofrio Triarsi that has damaged both cars. Brown got the worst of it, ended up in the pit lane with a broken hood, running without the hood right now, as you can see right here, but turning his best laps in the last two, doing his best to keep pace with the field and stay ahead of the leader, Philip Ellis.
Yeah, I think the key here, though, is for Colin. I mean, he's writing down some really fast lap times, but if they're going to get back in this fight, they need a yellow, and then if they have a yellow, he needs some tires to go do some damage with. So he wants to stay on that lead lap, but he's not going to catch this field if it stays green, so he's really not helping himself by burning through these tires right now. I try and find a lap time that's going to protect the tires a little bit, but keep you on that lead lap.
Tough balance to strike, and I can't imagine the car is handling to its ideal either, given the fact that, well, the hood's designed the way it is for a reason. No engineer likes to see a car without a hood going faster than with the hood that they designed affixed to the machine. And with a possible handling deficiency, that makes the tire wear an even bigger story.
It certainly does, and I'm not sure what the aerodynamic efficiency would be in terms of straight line speed or downforce with that hood being gone, but certainly is a factor there. But I'm sure Bill Riley is thinking through all of these options in terms of how to play the game this way forward, but they're not going to get back in this fight without a yellow today, because he's essentially almost a lap down here.
This is the car that stands to benefit from the misfortune for the 0-4. Second place in points, Jan Halen, Charlie Luck, father-in-law and son-in-law for the Wright Motorsports team.
Well, the difficulty for Colin Brown and George Kurtz, that Pro-Am field is deep. They run in last position and in ninth, and with Halen in second, that, to my casual math, about that 16-point jump, and they only lead the championship by 6, so that would put the 45 car 10 points to the good in terms of the championship standings. It's a long way to go as you look at the clock, of course.
According to some numbers from that I've been sent here recently, from someone who's pretty good at crunching numbers, worst case scenario for Brown and Kurtz would be to leave in third place, 17 points out of the lead. That is if Charlie Luck and Jan Halen were to win in that class, and it's also assuming that Brown and Kurtz go the full 70% race distance, and if they do that, the worst they could do is score 9th place points. So it's not a terrible outcome, all things considered, but really, this all got started yesterday when they were involved in that crash on lap 1 that forced them to go to the backup chassis here today, so they lose their scheduled starting position inside the top 6. Have to start at the very back, and that puts them in a vulnerable spot.
Yeah, it's just amazing how the domino effect of a weekend and one little moment there can really have an adverse effect, and then it becomes big picture of the championship at the same time. So, long way to go in this championship chase. We've got 2 rounds at Sebring, and then the single event, the 8-hour Indy, but does score double points for that weekend.
And it is scored at the full 8-hour distance, which is a departure from what we've had in previous years, when the 3-hour mark was the designated points-paying run for the American Championship. Michael Cooper here, stuck down in 11th overall and behind the leader in the AM class, Onofrio Triarsi, who is running good lap times, it must be said. And that's brought Drew Stavely into the fight. And look at Drew, Ian Lacey Racing. A sporty run for Drew Stavely in the Aston as he took a peek on a former series champion.
Yeah, he did, and he certainly had a run going, so that Aston Martin is hooked up here. They're gradually finding their way with this program. Struggled a bit last year, but worked really hard with AMR, Aston Martin Racing, to identify how to make this Aston Martin tick. And they're on the rise, and this is another big story here this weekend with Jeff Burton and Corey Lewis shifting camps over to TR3 with this Lamborghini Huracan. It's kind of a one-off, but I got a feeling that we may see them throughout the campaign at this point forward.
Disappointing day yesterday, but it has been a good weekend, all things considered, from a pace perspective. Corey Lewis doing the driving right now, and let's hear more about this TR3 team and their story with Shay.
Well, it was the back of this Lamborghini that ultimately caused the damage with the Mercedes, but unfortunately for that Corey Lewis-Colin Brown incident, someone else was involved on the front side. Colin pushed Corey into somebody else, and so they actually wound up with damage on the nose and the tail of the number 91 Burton Lamborghini. So keep an eye on the front of that car, because everything is handling okay for now, according to Corey Lewis, but it's not as good as it was before.
I think the car that he got pushed into then must have been the Triarci car, because we see the damage at the back of that. It does look like the diffuser is maybe a little bit awry, but to Shay's point, the front is where we're really seeing there has been some contact on the 91. All things considered, though, if you think they were the meat in that sandwich, they came away looking pretty rosy relative to the other two.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but it doesn't take much to kind of take the performance edge off, so I'll be curious to understand exactly what balance Corey now has with this race car. But this is a lovely little battle going on here, where Anufio Triarci leading in AM, but 10th on the road, then Michael Cooper aboard the real-time racing entry, and Drew Stavely's had a nice strong run here today.
He's no slouch behind the wheel. He's been an instructor at the Ford Performance Driving School. He's been a class champion in the GT4 ranks within SRO America. It's a big, big step for the little team from Utah to go GT3 racing a year ago, and by their own admission, they struggled. Started to turn the page, turn the corner in the second half of the year last year, and that's carried over into this year. And when he's given the chance, Drew Stavely has looked awfully sporty driving this Aston. At the front of the field, though, Philip Ellis continues to show the way. The lead has grown to 3.3 seconds over K-Pax Racing's Jordan Pepper. Mario Farnbacher runs third overall, and
Today's coverage is brought to you by Fanatec, AWS, and CrowdStrike.
.206.218 the lap time for Philip Ellis the last time by. That was 0.8 of a second clear of Jordan Pepper. The lead has grown up over 4 seconds. Mercedes over Lamborghini. Farnbacher running off the pace that, frankly, I thought we might see from him. Here comes Cooper. He's got the elbows out. He's going to push Triarci just a little bit wide and snag that position away. Not for class position, but Cooper now is up to 10th overall and clear to try and chase down the Pro-Am cars in front of him. And Drew Stavely had it a little bit easier. He followed him right through.
Yeah, opened up the door nicely there for Drew, so Michael got his elbows out there and said, enough is enough, I'm coming through. I think it's a frustrated Michael Cooper as well. We're used to seeing him run at the sharp end of any field that he competes in, so I think the program this year, making the move to real time away from the XDT and the Mercedes AMG platform last year, I think he has a lot of chemistry with the real-time group led by Nathan Bonneau, of course, but things just haven't gone their way. They haven't stopped digging deep and working hard. They tested here, felt that the car was in a good place to come in this weekend, but they just can't seem to figure out the solution to get the lap time out of this Acura NSX.
Extra frustrating is the fact that Racer's Edge has unlocked their Acura NSX. They run third overall and lead this Pro-Am class. That's not something that's going to sit well with the real-time squad. It's a proud group. Look at their history. They've got reason to be. They've won in seemingly every category they've raced in over many, many years, led by Peter Cunningham. But not this year.
See Michael here using every inch of the road, using the entry curbing there to turn in through the gate all the way out. He's trying to wring its neck. He's as confused as anyone here as why he can't get the lap time out of this race car. And essentially his lap time right now is about a second off Mario Farnbacher's, and you don't expect to see that delta between two top-line pilots.
Exactly right. This is a series champion at every level. Touring cars, GT4 and GT3. Michael Cooper from New York State has driven a lot of different cars and won in just about all of them in his still relatively brief career. But right now, Meyer back in 10th overall, starting to turn some good laps now that he's clear of the traffic. A 2:08.6 the last time by, which has him quicker than a couple of the cars just up the road. Drew Stavely as well, keeping pace, running just a couple tenths off of what Cooper did the last time by. 10th and 11th in the overall running order under the Sargento Bridge through the Moraine Sweep. Michael Cooper and Drew Stavely both have cleared the AM class leader in Ofrio Triarsi. They now set sail with their next target being Corey Lewis. This is how it got done, Calvin, into turn number 1.
Yeah, he sends it down the inside, and Ofrio tries to squeeze him a little bit. Michael needs that room. I don't think it was Michael being aggressive there, but the speed that he entered that corner with, he needed that radius to complete it. Otherwise, you're going to pinch the car and probably lose the car in terms of control. So now he's got Drew Stavely, who's sort of closed that gap. And these two guys have had great battles in GT4 competition over the years, so they know each other very well.
It's a really good point, actually. I forgot about that, but these two did square off in the pro division of what at the time was the Pirelli GT4 America Sprint Championship, and I think they were first and second in points that year, if memory serves.
Here's Farnbacher, continues to lead in Pro-Am, third on the road. Got Caldarelli sitting there about a second back. The key for Mario is to try and gap Jan Halen as much as he can. That gap is about 3.5 seconds right now, so that when Ashton Harrison jumps on board, she may have a little bit of a cushion to work with when Charlie Luck climbs aboard the 45 machine.
Consulted my notes, and memory did serve. That is exactly what happened back in 2020. Race Vision powered by AWS. Corner speeds at turn 3. That's this upcoming corner. Quick right-hander, as you can see, 73 miles per hour. 73.3 for each of the top 5 through there. That is Holland the male. And pushing the envelope was Andrea Caldarelli. 2 wheels just a little bit wide and in the dirt.
We were really licking our chops for that first opportunity to see last year's champions, Jordan Pepper and Andrea Caldarelli, go up against it. They shared the car at the opening rounds at Sonoma, swept that weekend, and then there was a rule change where all of the pro lineups had to have a silver graded driver on board, so they split their forces there at Capex. And hadn't really developed till yesterday, but we saw that sensational move in terms of the highlights of Jordan narrowly missing the tail end of that black Lamborghini in the move down into turn 5, but we must sort of like put a statement on with that move, as that Caldarelli and the #1 team have really been struggling a bit with this chassis here this weekend, as we look on board with the Racers Edge group led by John Maraki there, looking for another win, second win of the year here yesterday.
Should pass along this note from race control. The contact between Cooper and Triarsi in turn 1 is under review. Keep an eye on that as that situation develops. A lot of attention focused right here. Farnbacher, that last time by, did dip into the 206s. Marginally quicker than Caldarelli.
Here's the K-Pack squad looking on. See Thomas Blam backbench. There's Sebastian, the engineer for Andrea Caldarelli, trying to analyze the data. Where were he losing this time? They've been digging deep, they've been grinding, they've been scratching their heads as to why they can't get the ultimate performance out of this Lamborghini.
Kaylee Beretta was in the bottom left of that shot. We'll take this car from Caldarelli at the pit stop, which is coming up. 90-minute races, the pit window 10 minutes right in the middle of the race, barring a full course yellow in that portion of the race. And we'll We'll see full service, pit stops, tire changes, refueling, driver change as well. And it all has to be done, including the trip up and down the long pit lane here in a minimum of 86 seconds.
Sellers has really kept the heat on Jan Halen here. Battle for P2 in the Pro-Am class. Dropping Bill Oberlin and Dirk Mueller a little bit here. It's about a 2-second gap between these two pairs of race cars, all running in the same class. Farnbacher leads everyone. This is Jan Halen running in P2.
Right behind him is Brian Sellers. Might be the best looking run we've seen out of this car. They finished 4th earlier this year at NOLA. It was a bit of a wacky race, but right there, very much on the pace with the defending Pro-Am champion, Jan Halen, and Brian Sellers, Scott Smithson. We really thought, especially based on how Scott ran in the GT America race at St. Pete earlier in the year, that this could be a really strong pairing. They've had their moments. Maybe it's starting to click here as we get in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think they're really tweaking on the setups, bringing Dirk and Brian on board, getting a different set of feedback in terms of how to dial these race cars in. And again, when you're running in the Pro-Am lineup, it's not all about how can Brian Sellers or Dirk Mueller drive the race car, but how can the combination of drivers, along with Scott Smithson and David Askew, compete. You've got to have a compromise in the setup a little bit between the Pro and the Am. I think that's why when you see the Pro cars of Winward and US Racetronics, I think their drivers have a little bit more experience and their cars are a little bit edgier and ultimately may have a little bit more lap time.
Smithson and Sellers did finish 4th yesterday too to match the season best. They run 3rd at the moment in Pro-Am, but still a long way to go. 62 minutes left before we see the checkered flag. Teams watching on, that's Wright Motorsports. Jan Halen, 2nd in class. And it's interesting, new co-driver for him this year. He had Fred Pordad alongside en route to that championship 1 year ago. But the playbook is awfully similar, isn't it? Win when you can, otherwise finish on the podium. It seems like that's what they did all season long last year, and it's been a similar string of results for the team in 2022.
It certainly has, and they both had success here last year, Halen and Luck, winning in their respective championships. I think Halen had a win and a runner-up finish, or another podium certainly, and Charlie had a win in GT America as well.
Ellis continues to show the way, but a good battle shaping up in the Pro-Am ranks with just over 1 hour to go at Elkhart Lake.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Pirelli, Rebellion, and VP Racing Fuels.
Philip Ellis showing the way with an hour to go here at Road America and just knocking out the lap time, Calvin. This is incredible. He is the only driver in the 206s at this stage in the race. Everyone else peppered in a 207 flat, and no one else is even in the zip code. He just did a 206.4, even quicker that time by than the previous lap.
Yeah, and I think the reason that Pepper was able to keep it close within about 2 to 3 seconds there in the initial phase of this race is that Philip Ellis has got so much experience, was managing those tires to allow him to have this ability later in the stint to really try and gap the field just as we get towards the pit stop window opening here in about 10 minutes time.
Exactly 10 minutes from now, that window will open, but who will come and who will wait towards the end of that window? We suspect with these Pro-Am lineups, it will be a waiting game to maximize the drive time of those pro drivers. Sellers continues to stalk Jan Halen, closing in through turn 3. Halen drops that left side wheel. That's not uncommon. There's a reason the grass is missing in that patch right after the curbing. Seen a lot of that throughout the course of this weekend.
Sellers is just hunting. Just try to keep it clean. You just really try to detail every single corner, just execute, maximize, efficient under the braking, don't go in too deep, roll the minimum speed, squeeze on the power. There's his teammate there in the grey cap, Scott Smithson, looking on, analyzing the data, trying to draw every ounce of information that he can prior to jumping on board.
Again, doing this in the big wake left by that leading Porsche. Those GT3 cars in this modern era, a lot of aerodynamics built in to these cars, and it is difficult to follow. We heard a few drivers allude to that in their post-race interviews yesterday.
Yeah, they really did, particularly in sweeping corners like the carousel coming through here. If you lose any of the nose on the car with the air not quite hitting those dive planes, creates an understeer, and if you continue to drive in it like Mario Farnbacher said he had to deal with it yesterday and following Bill Oberlin for so long, you got to really watch that you don't wear out your front tires.
Nip and tuck between these two sports car racing aces. Brian Sellers, GT3 champion, in a different paddock, carrying that skill set over here, and as chronicled, Jan Heylen, a champion just 1 year ago, and had a really tremendous year last year across the board in multiple series, multiple platforms of Porsche. Right now, he's got his hands full with the charging Brian Sellers. Brian Sellers right there in the slipstream, working on the 45 Wright Motorsports Porsche. Jan Heylen, the Belgian, now living in Florida as he has for the last 10, 15 years or so. Coming stateside to pursue an IndyCar career, did get to the highest levels of open wheel racing in the US in Champ Car. Has found a niche for himself, not just in sports car racing, but specifically with this team, Wright Motorsports. They have found themselves a diamond in the rough or an ace in the hole, whatever you want to say, with Jan Heylen. He's been plug and play. Any program they need him, he jumps in and just goes fast.
Yeah, he's just a staple of that organization, along with John Wright and the whole engineering squad. You know that anyone who shows up on their doorstep, they have all of the pieces in place to deliver a truly outstanding performance. Here's another great run for Mario Farnbacher here today. I think he had one intention, that was really focus on the Pro-Am class lead and try and establish that and try and gap Heylen, Sellers, and Oberlin, and Mueller and Lewis and company in terms of giving Ashton Harrison the best opportunity to go and sweep this weekend.
Speaking of Ashton, I believe Shay has tracked her down as her stint is coming up here in about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, it is, and it's not like it's easy for her to stay out of the car and just watch Mario work his magic. Ashton, we're talking about heart rates being elevated. How hard is it knowing that this race, well, you won it yesterday, you should be able to do it again, right?
Yeah, I wish it was that easy. As you could tell throughout the whole year, there's been a lot of ups and downs, not just with us, but through all the cars that we're up against in the championship. So Mario's doing a great job right now. He's doing Mario things, which is building a gap and keeping us in a really good spot. So I'm calm right now. I'm looking forward to getting into the car. And yesterday was great for the Racers Edge team and for Honda. So I'm looking forward to getting back out there and hoping to do it again.
What are you learning before your stint by watching the race, watching the lap times that'll help you?
Well, there's a difference between like a qualifying pace and a race pace, obviously. So for me, I monitor the race pace. What are our competitors doing, especially the people that were up against the championship? Like, what are their pro guys doing and what is my guy doing? And so I really keep an eye on that. And then just trying to keep the gap that Mario's built in a comfortable spot so that we can continue to push forward. But Mario and I always have a briefing before we get in the car and get going, and I'm hoping to put that stuff to work.
Well, right now, your guy leading the way in the Pro-Am class. Meanwhile, your championship contenders are in a feisty battle.
They are, and I'm enjoying that part. Yeah.
So are we, for what it's worth. Thanks, Shay. Thanks, Ashton. She's been so good alongside Mario Farnbacher, who's a known commodity. Ashton really wasn't when she jumped in. She'd done some Super Trofeo racing, had a bit of a resume, and you can kind of look and see, all right, she definitely has a spot in this series, but coming out of the HPD GT3 Academy last year where she got tons of seat time in this car, not racing seat time, but testing seat time, and so much coaching that went along with that. That program has turned out now 2 straight years, some really good talent that was instantly ready to compete.
Yeah, it's a great program, great idea, very innovative, and certainly a lot of drivers have grasped it with the opportunity to get behind the wheel of one of these GT3 cars before you get thrown into the deep competition here this weekend. But looking at this championship scenario that Shay alluded to and Ashton was certainly touching on there, right now they're looking at a potential of a 23-point swing to the championship leaders, and they only came in 21 points behind. Caveat to that is that the 45 car is probably going to stay ahead of them still, but still a big day, and it's really going to keep the heat on as we head to Sebring, both in terms of the Florida temperatures and the championship.
54 minutes to go. They are getting the job done. That is for sure. The Racers Edge team have been tied at the hip to Honda the last several years, built a nice relationship with the Japanese manufacturer, and have a touring car component to that academy now that debuted this year. Big plans for the future of that program, but right now, focus on the racetrack and the focus on the overall leader, Philip Ellis and Windward Racing out in front.
Today's coverage is brought to you by ASUS Republic of Gamers, Motul, Stay Frosty, and 511.
Lap times just keep coming from Philip Ellis, and there's been next to no drop-off. Yeah, he's about a second off the pace of his very best lap, but compare that to the others, Calvin, and he has been able to maintain the pace on used Pirellis on a very abrasive surface better than anyone else, and that's partially why he's got a 9-second lead.
Yeah, pretty much a masterclass here in terms of managing this race so far by Philip Ellis, and this is a team that is very much on a roll right now. They've had some heartbreak this summer in terms of losing races right at the wire, but looking for their third consecutive class win, and maybe their second overall win, including, as Shay alluded to, they're going for 3 straight here at Road America within the last 3 weekends. So big deal for that team to perform at this level, led by Ed Hall. He was brought on as team manager this year. Got a great group around him. Bryce Ward and the whole team there give him the resources to go and do it correctly. And they're building a great operation.
One of the fastest cars on the track this last lap was this one. Michael Cooper just did a personal best this deep into the stint. That's remarkable. A 2:08.1, half a second faster than Corey Lewis, and Drew Stavely hanging right there with him too.
This is what I pointed earlier, it's just that qualifying, that ultimate lap time they struggled to find. But in terms of race pace, I mean, Michael just laid down a lap equal to Mario Farbacher, who leads this class, but in terms of the ultimate pace, still 1.2 seconds off. So that's the conundrum. Why can't we get that peak lap? Why can't we get the energy into these Pirelli tires and make it grip?
Check the stopwatch as he comes around one more time, but to the eye, it looks like the gap to Lewis has come down further. It was a 2:08.5, and actually the eye deceived me, apparently. He gave up about 1/10 of a second to Corey on that trip. Drew Stavely, though, matching Michael Cooper at this stage. On aggregate, these two do seem to be making inroads on Lewis, but it has been a tough slog. And it might not be up to them to get the job done here, because we're approaching that pit window very rapidly, just over 50 seconds away now from that pit window. The driver change should be coming sometime inside that 10-minute window. Looks like with 50.5 minutes to go, the pit window is looming, as is Dirk Muller in the rearview camera of Bill Auberland. This is a duel that's been going on since the very early stages of this race.
Yeah, and I think for Bill Auberland with that BMW, it's the tire deck is the factor, so he's starting to back up just a little bit. Seeing a bunch of the teams getting ready to go. Russell Ward, thumbs up. Looks like he's fired up to take over the reins. You'd have to feel that the coach will stay in the car as deep into this 10-minute window as we can, with the pit stop window opening right now.
Report from the pit lane is we can expect the #1 K-Pax Lamborghini, Andrea Caldarelli, to be among the first takers, if not the first taker. That would be Caldarelli over to Beretta. Pro class cars, a bit more flexibility in their strategy, with more similar pace from the two drivers in the two-driver lineup than, say, you would find in a Pro-Am lineup. So expect these Pro-Am cars to run deep into this 10-minute window.
Yeah, and I think by doing that, the one car that are pretty much on the back foot in terms of getting that ultimate result here today, you got an option here. If there is a safety car, that could kind of back things in your direction in terms of making that early pit stop. You know that Colin Brown's going to stay out there as long as he can and hope for that option. They've just been praying for a yellow to get that car back towards the pack.
One other element that helps the undercut work is tire warmers in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. It means you leave the pit lane with a car that is close to being at optimal tire temperature, tire pressure, and ready to attack right away. You don't have to spend a half a lap or more trying to build that temperature. K-Pac's crew goes to work. Pirelli P0's coming off, going on, and the driver change underway. These two have been working at this together now for the better part of the season. Beretta and Colorelli.
Look at that beautiful synchronization and orchestration of the wheel changes going on there.
Driver change complete. Tires go on. The car still waiting on the VP fuel. Now it sits, and we wait. It's good. Now they release the car. We'll check the time. 86 seconds is what they're targeting. Right there inside that 1 second joker, 85.4.
Yeah, and now it's hammer time here for Beretta. Got those fresh Pirellis on there. Try and make use of them and see if there's any chance of eating into the couple of cars that were ahead of them on the road.
Only other car to come in this sequence, GMG Racing. James Safronis will pass the second place car in the AM class over to Kyle Washington. That change is underway now.
I think their program there is just to get Kyle Washington as much experience as he possibly can. So even though James has a bit more experience and probably a little bit more pace at this stage of Kyle's game, give Kyle more minutes. Give him more play time.
That is the change. Washington with an off-road truck racing background. He's been on the fast track in GT3 racing, done some GT4 racing too. A very experienced team with GMG to help him on that learning curve. They released the car. Looks like that one's probably going to be a little slower than they would have liked, but again, this is as much about getting Kyle's seat time, to your point, as it is ultimate pace. Here's an interesting move here. Pro-Am, Bill Auberlin will make his way to the pit lane, and that means Chandler Hull will have to do a massive, massive outlap for this strategy to work.
Yeah, and I think this is all down to maybe the tire degradation that they're struggling with. It seemed like Bill late in the stint, just like yesterday, just couldn't quite keep the car sharp. So much experience, but if you're just fighting it, it's just going to keep working on this car here in terms of the tire deg. We call it the Wisconsin cheese grater here with this race surface that will be resurfaced here at the end of the racing season starting in October. This place, if they give it some grip with the new surface, could be absolutely a monster next year in terms of the lap time potential.
It does look like the qualifying set of tires, the scuffed-in tires, are what go on here for Chandler Hull. We talked about that yesterday. A unique strategy to a degree from the Pro-Am side of things. Usually you give the Am the set of sticker tires for the race, but they've elected to go the other direction, counting on Chandler Hull to be able to do the job when it's asked, and this is his time to shine.
Colin Brown here leaping up the front straightaway with the hood missing on the CrowdStrike Racing entry. That's how much time he's down, even on Chandler Hull's car that is not leading this race, but Colin Brown staying on the lead lap. He just needs a yellow. They need something there for the CrowdStrike team to get back in this game today.
Talked about the tire warmers earlier, but it's not like they're at total peak operating temperatures right here. Chandler Hull, as he put the power down in his hands full out of turn 3. Let's see what it looks like here in 5.
It's pretty much there.
Yep, didn't take long.
So when the car feels good, just as you're getting into a rhythm, then the performance, even though you got the fuel burn, as the car gets a little bit lighter, that gives the car performance, makes it more agile. Take it deeper into the brake zones, but then it's all about fighting the tires that are trying to go in the other direction in terms of the amount of grip that they're then providing.
The Bimmerwell guys executed on their stop. They were right there within 2/10 of the minimum. Exactly what they needed to do. Onofrio Triarsi takes the leading car in the AM class to the pit lane for what they hope is their only pit stop here today. They won yesterday despite not quite getting the car totally topped up with VP fuel in their first pit stop. Had to come in for a splash and go late, but had enough of a margin. They still held on for another class win.
See that burn there on the rear of the bodywork? I'm not sure when or how that occurred.
Saw it pick up that damage earlier. We think that was the incident that Corey Lewis, Colin Brown, and then this car were all involved in at the start that cost Brown his hood. Triarsi out. His brother-in-law, Charlie Scardina, hops behind the wheel, and he has been rapid all season.
Yeah, he's really quick. Talked about his career, and then you see the mechanic kind of looking at that rear bodywork. I've got a feeling that may have occurred during the first stint of this race today.
Yeah, agreed.
Not sure if the tailpipe is forcing up. Maybe it took a hit and is kind of pushing it up towards the, yeah. See it there, as kind of got shoved. Lucky that didn't catch fire. It's certainly scorched.
That is a great catch, Cal. You're exactly right. That right side tailpipe.
That's got to be hurting performance as well in terms of the back pressure in the exhaust system.
Anything to be concerned about, though, with that heat?
Yeah.
For the rest of the race?
Yeah, for sure. Particularly when you top it back up with fuel. If you got any spillage or anything with a vent getting near that.
Pit stop underway for Windward. Leading car overall, looking for a weekend sweep and their third class win of the season.
Could have gone one lap more, decided to be a little bit more conservative here. I like this call. Anything can happen on that in lap, so you got to be cautious. Here comes Jordan Pepper. Misha Goldberg has been really strong here this weekend. Excellent performance yesterday. Is there a delay here? No, not good.
Now, yesterday they had an issue with their timer, and they weren't sure how close to the window they were, or to the delta that they were, so they held it for an extra, I think it was 8 or 9 seconds that they lost sitting still. They must have had that all resolved. That was picture perfect. A 86.4 with an 86-second minimum, just only 4/10 over that minimum time.
Those K-Pax pit stops just look so efficient and dialed in, don't they?
They do. Part of the reason they had so much success running one of the pro class cars in 24 Hours of Spa last month. Had to start further back than they qualified for technical reasons.
I say that. That's a problem. They just did a 124.96. They're a 10th underneath the minimum joker. They're going to get drive-through.
Wow. Wow, that is an error you rarely see from that team. Pepper to Goikberg, it was 37 thousandths of a second away from being right on the money with the joker, but they're under by that margin, so yep, no arguing that.
That's not down to how quickly you're doing the service, it's just the timing of the release. Typically everything's done and just waiting to release the car as tight to that number as you can. You have that 1 second delta to work with, but they were just beneath it, as Ryan alluded to, 37 hundredths of a second. Thousandths of a second, excuse me.
Riley Motorsports have already been in the pit lane once. That was to remove the hood and patch up a little bit of the damage. Don't think they're going to have time to do much to it on this stop. They need that full course yellow to get caught back up and have time to be stationary and make the change. Boy, that tire changer about tripped over the tire there. That could have been a disaster. Crisis averted.
Those tires weigh about 45 pounds. Those mechanics are super fit just to throw those things around.
Oh, it's amazing. They make them look like they're made out of plastic or something, but you're right. Those wheels, the tires, that whole assembly, it is a major, major feat.
It's my backache just looking at it.
It's the Riley car released. Look now at the leaders in Pro-Am, Racer's Edge. It's been one of the top teams in this class for the past several years. They drop the car off the jacks. On the limiter is Ashton Harrison. She's anxious, and she peels out. She's ready to go. This is their pursuer, Wright Motorsports. Don Halen giving way to Charlie Luck. The Farnbacher-Harrison pit stop was on the money. Same for Haywen to Luck. Both teams within a tenth of the minimum. Sellers to Smithson was within the joker time. Don't think they used theirs yesterday, so they're in business. That was nicely done. This is a look at the wounded car that Corey Lewis started. Jeff Burton, a little bit of a delay, but now pulls out.
Here comes Chandler Hull, so that undercut did not work for the Bimmerworld team. They didn't really gain anything by that, so it's going to be a fascinating battle when we look at some of the co-drivers now behind the wheel. Ashton Harrison, Charlie Luck, Scott Smithson in the mix for a podium run here today for DXDT.
The Burton-Lewis stop was long, considerably longer. That is not what you want to see. Cooper and Vogel was good. Stavely to Gannett was a little long as well. So we're about through that pit stop window now. In fact, we are under 40 minutes to go. Still a lot to play for, and a totally new cast of characters behind the wheel to take us to the finish. On board, going up the hill through turn 6, but Windward showing the way as they did one day ago in race 1 at Road America. We'll let timing and scoring cycle through to give us a sense for how those pit stops affected the running order, but one thing that absolutely was not affected, this is the car that is in control of this race. Russell Ward now doing the driving, coming by on a flying lap, a 2:08.4, but that was the first flyer here for Ward. He'll get that up to speed. The two K-Pax cars have found one another, but the green one should be getting a drive-through penalty, we believe, for being under the pit stop minimum.
Yeah, just flashed up on timing and scoring, so unfortunate. Looked like perfect execution, but just that little bit, and you're going to get called on it. They give you a second to work with. You don't get any more. Doesn't matter if it's 1,000th of a second. Misha gives way for Beretta to try and chase down Russell Ward, and unfortunately, I believe I saw that George Kurtz has gone down a lap. I think he's now down a lap to the overall leader. That's going to hurt their opportunities.
That takes that yellow out of play as a way to basically play a get-out-of-jail-free card. Now that you're down a lap, now they just have to hope on good pace or for the leaders to start lapping deep into the Pro-Am field, then catch that yellow and try and go racing to the end.
Whatever happens, there's potential for a massive swing here in the Pro-Am point standings.
Well, they came into this weekend feeling like they were relatively in control. It was still fairly tight, but they had a lot of momentum going their way. No points yesterday, staring at 9th place points right now here today. And yeah, that is massive, especially when you consider that those that are closest to them in points are having good days.
They came into the weekend with a 21-point lead, and they could be looking at maybe a 10 plus or even more.
Frank Gannett. He's got Jeff Burton behind. These two have dueled in GT4 racing in the past, finding each other here in GT3. Right now, this is a battle for the 9th overall position, 6th and 7th in Pro-Am. Lacey Racing, Aston Martin, TR3 Racing, Lamborghini. That's the scrap you see right here. Just over a half an hour left to go. Russell Ward in control for Windward Racing. Misha Goikberg was issued that drive-through penalty, the K-Pax car, for being 37 thousandths of a second under the pit stop minimum. They'll have to make that long crawl down the pit lane. It's 46 seconds to do just the pit lane part at the speed limiter, plus it's the deceleration and the acceleration. In short, it is painful, and Misha Goikberg, who has had a stellar weekend, will hate every second of this.
Yeah, and the reason it's such a big delta, it's a long pit lane, and you're driving at 50 kilometers an hour, and cars are flashing by you at about, 260 kilometers an hour.
Not ideal, to say the least. It's cost him 3 positions so far. Chandler Hull coming up next. That would not be for class position, though, and that is the good news. It takes them out of the picture to fight at the front in Pro, but with the Pro field down a couple of cars due to incidents, yesterday, the Turner car and the US Racetronics car not in the field, only 3 Pro Class cars. They're still in position to score at least third-place points, assuming they can go 70% race distance.
Looking at Beretta here aboard the #1 K-Pax machine, throwing it around. And I think it was really highlighted how they're struggling for car performance there in comparison with the sister car. I think the fastest laps by Caldarelli and Pepper are about a second apart, and they're typically matching identically. So this green Lamborghini Huracan certainly has pace potential over the one car, but right now the one car has the track position after the penalty for that pit stop infraction.
Frank Gannett driving very, very well, it has to be said, here in 6th with Jeff Burton behind him. And he has not cracked under the pressure one bit.
He's gradually finding his feet as he and Lacey and the team find the true form of this Aston Martin. It's been a long road. They've had to be patient. I'm sure it's been frustrating for them. Jeff here looking at the inside. Not close enough. Frank just opens up his hand in case Jeff forced the issue there. Nice decision. Misha Goldberg now back up on the wheel here, trying to make ground after that drive-through penalty.
See the speed delta between these two Pro-Am cars and Goikberg, who's driving through the red mist right now after serving that drive-through penalty. This is into the kink. Trying to time that run. Can he get a run on Burton into Canada corner to pick up at least an overall position?
Yeah, Misha has a lot more experience aboard a Lamborghini than certainly Jeff Burton does. Quite a bit of racing with the Grasser Racing team here in North America. Prior to that, had a lot of experience in prototype competition. Had some big runs here in the past.
No doubt about it. On his day, he was rapid in the prototype and started to come to grips with the K-Pax setup for the Lamborghini. This has been a strong weekend for Misha Goikberg. Even if the overall running order here does not display that. Gets a nice run out of 14. Was in the slipstream of Burton. Pulls out a line. And is that some smoke? Possibly, or was that still some of that speedy drive that was down from an earlier incident in the day with Gannett running offline? I suspect that's what we were seeing.
I think so, because I think all of the cars were kicking that up a little bit, and I think it's just gradually been dragged down the racetrack as kind of an incident up towards the start-finish line, but now that speedy drive seems to have made its way down more towards turn 1.
Goikberg made the pass on Burton, and looks like it is Gannett next in his sights. Meanwhile, Jan Halen is standing by with Shea as his son-in-law tours the racetrack here in this Porsche.
Materialized through all the other cars and jumped up to 2nd in Pro-Am. Looking at the bigger picture, though, as I know you always are, today is an important day for championships. So how hard do you tell Charlie to push?
Yeah, I mean, right now, you know, every point counts, so we're really hoping that we can stay in front of the Mercedes. Right now, we just don't have the BOP on our side, so it's really tough for us out there. We're pushing as hard as we can all the time, and it seems like some other cars around us have just that little bit more. So hopefully, yeah, we can stay in front of the Mercedes, because it looks like Ashton's a little too quick for us today. So, but yeah, it's getting tight in the championship.
2 podiums on the weekend. Would that be considered a good weekend for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, the race, still a long ways to go, but if we can finish the race where we are now, that'd be a really good result. I think it really is. I mean, finishing 2nd and 3rd is a lot better than the pace of the car right now, so we'd be really happy with that.
Wright Motorsports very accustomed to outperforming cars. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Again, that was the MO last year for this team. That's how Jan Halen won the championship last year, with Fred Pordat. Just consistency, always being there at the end, maximizing their bad days. Here's a replay of an interesting moment. Gannett and Goikberg. Goikberg up the inside, gets that pass made. So move Misha up another spot, now 8th overall, and the battle resumes between Gannett and Burton, only slightly delayed.
See what Burton learned there from how Misha was able to take advantage of Frank there down into the brake zone for turn 8.
Burton taking a peek to the inside, now swings outside on Gannett, takes that middle of the road to try and defend that spot. These two have been at it since they took over their race cars just about 10 minutes ago. The battle continues at Road America, headed down towards turn 5.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Acura, BMW M, and Ferrari.
No change in position between Gannett and Burton. They continue to slug it out. That time through hurry downs, turn 7, now into this long duration right-hand corner known as the carousel. So it can get pretty treacherous offline. You really need to stick right to your marks because the marble buildup in that corner can be pretty extreme.
It really can. You get that little bit of understeer and just running that slightly wider line. That's where all of the tires have been shredded and that debris from the tire just sits there. And that just suddenly means when you get to the kink, you may not have the grip that you're typically expecting. But Frank's doing a really nice job here. He's compromising his line a little bit to be defensive, but it's giving Jeff a bit of a run here. Tricky part of the racetrack to try and do anything with it. You see the brake lights come on momentarily. Jeff is being very patient here.
A pair of them showing mutual respect. Burton, though, with a good run out of 14, and he is right there on the tail of that Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3 down the pit straightaway. Sensing that pressure, Gannett down to the pit wall, playing defense, and that Aston is strong in the drag race.
Yeah, it looks like he even gapped him with Jeff being in the draft there by a good car length to a car length and a half. So Frank knows that. It's all about hitting your marks, standing on the juice there, and just maintaining that track position. But the other thing that happens is I think maybe Jeff has a little bit more pace here, but you end up getting into the same rhythm, and you're not developing the same rolling speed going through some of these corners. So Jeff's being patient here, but he needs to have a bit of a go here, but he's got a bit of time left to do it with.
Again, Gannett looking to guard the inside on the approach to 5. Leaves a car width to either side, but Burton is not close enough to make a lunge, left or right. Up over the curbing there on the outside. It's a bumpy ride, but that's where the speed is found.
Frank's doing a really nice job. Super clean run, hitting his marks. Doesn't look ruffled.
Jeff Burton's doing this in a wounded car. He was involved in an incident on the first lap, front and back. Here he comes, looking up the inside. That was aggressive. Late on the brakes. Picture perfect. Jeff Burton makes the pass on Frank Gannett and grabs the 6th spot. 26 minutes to go. Captivating battle has come to a close. Jeff Burton prevails over Frank Gannett. Jeff Burton now running 6th in Pro-Am, 9th overall, and this is how he made the move. It was a late move on the brakes down hurry downs.
It was, but he's a little bit closer there, exiting turn 7, just slides it down the inside. Textbook. Frank tried to close the door a little bit, but he realized that basically it was game over. Good little battle there for a handful of laps between these two fierce competitors.
Really enjoyed that. These two always have a big smile on their face at the racetrack. Both of them making the jump to GT3 last year after driving touring cars and GT4 cars. It's been a learning curve for both, but they've embraced the challenge. It's been awesome.
Speaking of learning curve, certainly Scott Smithson's been on one, but he's done a really solid job here today. Brian Sellers handed over the car in good shape and in good track position, and he has closed down on Charlie like this. A battle for 2nd in Pro-Am and 4th overall on the road.
This is an interesting one because it is a contrast in perspectives here. For Smithson and Sellers, they're not in the championship picture. Best finish of 4th on 2 occasions, running 3rd right now. This in and of itself would be a big day for them, just to be up on the podium. On the other hand, Luck and Halen and the whole Wright team, they are in the championship battle, and every point is going to be crucial for them, especially given the struggles for Kurtz and Brown here today. So I expect Charlie's going to be pretty feisty here if it comes to a wheel-to-wheel battle.
So a little twitch there from the car midway through the kink, so he's definitely feeling it. Smithson's ever closer. I think one thing he's really got to learn is just the racecraft. He's been here before and he's getting so much better at it in terms of when you get in these little battles, being efficient, just being really definitive with your moves if you do attempt to go down to the inside.
Think about the learning curve for Scott. He's pro racing experience has all been in front-wheel drive TCR cars. He was third in the TCR championship in TC America back in 2020, raced elsewhere in a TCR car last season for 5 of the rounds. Did make his GT3 debut at Indianapolis for DXDT, driving alongside David Askew and Ryan Diao in the Indy 8-hour, but right into the thick of things this season, and he's been a quick study. It's been impressive watching him come to grips with one of these high-powered, high-downforce machines.
I'll tell you what, thinking about the championship, if Smithson did get around Charlie Luck, that would really compress the championship standings with the 93 car with Ashton Nelson on board the Racer's Edge Acura. In the lead position right now, if they scored maximum points here this weekend. We talked about the Kurtz, Colin Brown car running in 9th, probably not going to finish any further in front than that, unless there's problems for the cars ahead of them. Said that Kurtz is now only 6 seconds back of David Askew, so definitely within reach there. That would be important, another couple of points.
It would. Difference between 9th place points and 8th place points is 4 versus 2, so 2 points the swing there. Every one of them could make the difference in a title fight as closely contested as this one has proven to be.
Charlie Luck, though, over the last couple of seasons, has certainly proven to us he's up for the fight. He's not intimidated. Even if Smithson gets close to him, he's not going to give it up easy.
Charlie is the reigning champion in GT America last year. Had a win here last year, actually, but then had a DNF in the second race. That was really the one blemish in his copybook in 2021 in Route 2, that championship. That, in his class, certainly never finished worse than second, and overall was very often up in the mix. But he's going to have to deal with some traffic here. That's Kyle Washington, we talked about earlier. The car started by James Sofronis. He, too, is drinking from a fire hose. Not much GT3 experience, so all of this is going to be part of his education as he embarks upon his GT3 journey.
Smithson there flashing his lights, what to make Kyle aware that he was going to try and come through at the same time, not lose any ground in this battle for second. Seemed to be very evenly matched. Looked like Smithson was closing in on him a little bit, and now it's kind of stalled out some. Some of that could just be the aero wash that you get, as we've discussed today, from these GT3 cars. Tons of downforce, but creates a bit of a wake behind you. You can pick up the draft down the straightaways, which helps when you get to the corners, particularly the medium and high-speed corners. Takes away that downforce efficiency that you're looking for.
That's something you probably don't have much experience with if you're coming from TCR racing. Those cars do make some downforce, but the wake off of a TCR car and the aero dependence, certainly nothing like a GT3 machine.
No. I mean, these cars are just incredible machines to drive, but they can get a little bit frustrating when you feel you've got a faster race car and you just get to that zone, that nowhere zone where you can't do much more. It's just like this little compression of air that you can't seem to get away from.
Approaching the final 20 minutes of this race. When this one takes the checker, there are just 3 races left in the season. That's why all these points matter at this stage. 2 races at Sebring of the traditional 90-minute length, and then the Indianapolis 8-hour to close things out, part of Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli. And this year, a couple changes. One, it's going to be a Saturday race into the twilight, and secondly, it will be points paid at the 8-hour mark, not at a shorter distance. So full 3-driver lineups for anyone looking to score points towards this championship. Should be a ton of fun. Race Vision powered by AWS. Corner speeds in turn 1, and Michele Beretta showing the way. 94 miles per hour through the center of that corner. That is high speed, high commitment.
See George Kurtz in the background at a certain point. He was not that far away from David Askew, but the last couple of laps, I'm not sure if George has got some kind of issue. Ran in the 2:12 range. And that gap has certainly blown out. He's now about 10 seconds back of David Askew.
This is George doing his best to make the most of what has been a trying day. Had the win earlier today in GT America powered by AWS, but Fanatec GT, it's been a different story. Right now running around 13th overall and 9th in Pro-Am. To keep an eye on the lap times from George Kurtz. See if he can gather it back up or if something might be amiss. Could have just been traffic, possibly with Beretta running just up the road. I wonder if he was coming through. Here we found another scrap with Gannett. This is not for class position, but Charlie Scardina is knocking on the door, looking for another position overall. And Charlie running competitive lap times, as he has all season long, and you can see more of that rear body work suffering from the heat. Calvin with his eagle eye pointed this out during the pit stop. We knew there had been that contact to the rear. Looked like part of the exhaust was bent upward, and you can see the effect it's had.
Yeah, it's really scorched that bodywork there, and the mechanics took a look at it, and the tailpipe is basically firing upwards. I was lucky that that didn't catch fire, otherwise we could have had a big problem for that team. Frank Gannett gives up that position, and you see Jeff Burton just ahead of these two, and since that pass that he's made on Frank Gannett, he's putting in about 4 to 5 tenths a lap, but Frank's putting in a really solid performance here.
This has been the dominant car of the weekend, but we should spare a thought for the US Racetronics team, which was right there on pace in practice and qualifying with the Windward guys. And Stephen Agakani, simple little mistake that we've seen in multiple races over the course of the weekend, but first lap, turn 3, on power, the car just snapped around, and it was innocent enough, except that it happened in the middle of the pack on that first lap. Heavy contact took him out of the race yesterday. The damage was bad enough that he could not, that team could not take part in race 2 today. It also cost us the Turner BMW today.
And also caused the CrowdStrike entry to go to their backup car, starting from the back of the pack. Colin got involved there in the first lap and just really turned their weekend on its head.
Definitely. It all spiraled from that one incident on the first lap yesterday, but man, it's another weekend for US Racetronics where they have had the speed. They have been among, if not the quickest car, and still searching for that elusive first win of the year. Perhaps Sebring will be the time and further down the road. 16.5 minutes to go. Russell Ward leading by a healthy margin over Michele Beretta for K-Pax Racing. The Texan, Russell Ward, for the family operation Windward Racing. I say that, it makes it sound like it's some kind of mom and pop operation. It is decidedly not that. This is one of the top and biggest Mercedes GT3 teams anywhere on the planet, with programs in North America as well as Europe. But it is the family team, nevertheless, and the scion of the family behind the wheel at the moment, turning some nice lap times, managing his lead, which has ballooned. It's now nearly 30 seconds over Michele Beretta and K-Pax.
Yeah, and he's been super consistent, running lap times in the 2:07 range, so that's really a nice pace to control this field with. But this battle is not going away. This is still for second in Pro-Am. Harrison continues to lead by about 9 seconds over Charlie Luck. So it looks like she is in great shape with Mario Farnbacher in terms of sweeping the weekend, but this is a good little battle here with Smithson just keeping his eye on Charlie Luck, just trying to figure out the solution to this puzzle in terms of where there may be an advantage that Mercedes has over the Porsche around this circuit.
And they've been locked in this duel for the last 15 minutes. They have 15 more minutes to settle it out, so Smithson should have some data points to draw from. He's going back to the old tried and true method of flashing the headlights, and maybe Charlie will move over. Don't think the chances are high.
So he rolled a bit more speed through there. He's closed on that gap there. So the car is carving the corners. The car looks really settled this weekend. Brian Sellers led one of the free practice sessions here this weekend aboard the same car. Charlie Luck will know the championship implications as well, as we're trying to hang on dearly for this runner-up finish. 3-point swing between second and third.
They're trying to maximize their day. Jan Halen and the rest of the right team looking on, because the car they are chasing in the points way down the order, stuck in 9th in Pro-Am after first lap damage for George Kurtz and specifically Colin Brown, who was driving at the time. We didn't really get to see what exactly happened, but we understand 3 cars were involved to varying degrees, but Brown got the worst of it. This is Beretta working through traffic. David Askew just ahead. Askew running 8th. Dirk Muller started that car.
Askew and Kurtz are running very similar lap times. They run in 8th and 9th place, respectively. Oh, this was ugly.
Yes, it was. Beretta had his hands full. That car was playing sideways in the braking zone for 3. Somehow he got it back under control, but that cost them both heaps of time.
Yeah, that was a little bit unnecessary there. There you see George Kurtz in the background, so you know that David Askew's getting that information in terms of George, and that he may be eating into that gap that he has for this track position. They were teammates last year, separate cars, same team, of course, when George drove for David's team, DXDT. There's a lot of pride involved as well, I would imagine, but you got a car that's lapping you, it shouldn't get that close, unfortunately, for both drivers.
Isn't likely to cost Beretta anything. He's 30 seconds adrift of Ward. Askew more likely to be harmed by the simple loss of time, but that said, it was close to a whole lot more than that. It was a white-knuckle moment for Michele Beretta as well as David Askew. Now we drop back to take a look in at Charlie Scardina, who continues to lead in AM, and he has caught Jeff Burton. That car might be somewhat wounded, but Charlie knows how to wheel it. Ofiel Triarci, his co-driver, did a great job on the first stint. Charlie Scardina continues to push.
Yeah, I don't think it's maybe hurting in the handling department, but we do wonder about that exhaust and if us diminishing the performance. And also sometimes what can happen, it kind of changes the balance in terms of the temperatures on one bank of the engine versus the other. A lot of these cars have these safety nets built in where they'll kind of self-police themselves and make some fuel adjustments to protect certain cylinders. Change of position. Yeah, here we go. Smithson has gotten around Charlie Luck here. This is a change of position in Pro-Am. Smithson up to P2.
And looking on, I'm sure with a big smile on his face, will be Brian Sellers, and Shea has found Brian.
Yeah, Brian was on the radio to Scott trying to give him a little bit of advice to get around Charlie Luck. Obviously, you know this track, you know the Porsche well, you know the Mercedes. Where was the advantage for Scott?
Well, I think right now we seem to have a little bit better tire life than what the Porsche does. I think when they go full attack, they really hurt the front tire, and I think Charlie had no choice with the pressure behind from Scott. So it's kind of what we were telling him, is just to make sure that he kept the pressure on Charlie and helped him, kind of encouraged him to use that tire up a little bit. So Charlie's a pretty experienced guy. You got to really do your homework behind him, and that's what we were working on with Scott. So we have about 10 minutes left in the race, so we'll see where we go from here.
Fingers crossed for you, Brian. Just drum out on the track with Misha Goikhberg coming to a stop, guys.
Exactly right, Shea. Thank you so much. Always great to catch up with Brian, but Goikhberg stopped.
Fortunately for him, they're past the 70% mark in this race. They will score points, so I don't think it's going to amazingly make any difference to the points they would have scored on the day. They should still finish P3 in class.
Yeah, well, that was a good day gone awry. Pepper had a nice opening stint, but it's all been sideways for Misha Goikhberg. 10 minutes to go. Russell Ward in command.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Lamborghini, Lexus, and Mercedes-AMG.
Road America, the site, just 9.5 minutes to go in the second of 2 races this weekend for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. As you can see, Charlie Scardina did get past Jeff Burton. This is how he got it done. It was down the front straightaway into turn 1.
Big draft up the front stretch there, gets on the racing line where there's a little bit more grip. You see the dust flying there offline. Jeff had to give it up by the time they got to the middle pedal.
Put Scardina then up into 9th overall, turning really good lap times in that Tre RC Competizione Ferrari. I need a new wrap on that car before they head to Sebring, but that'll be the home race for them. In fact, that's where they made their debut in GT3 racing last year. Showed up, Onofrio and Charlie did with this team, and showed good pace running in the M class last year up against AF Corsa.
I think they won on day 1, right? And they got involved in a turn 1 incident, as I recall, on day 2, unfortunately.
You are exactly right. And that encouraged them to commit to the full season here this year. They have been great. Haven't had a full season competitor. There have been some cars coming in and out of the M class, but they've had the measure of their opposition. Only in the first 2 races at Sonoma were they headed. Finished second in both of those races to the AF Corsa crew, Conrad Grunwald and JC Sada, who we hope to see back later on in the championship. I think there is a chance of that.
You may be wondering where the second Triazzi car is this weekend. Justin Weatherall unfortunately had an incident in GTA practice here the other day, destroyed the car at high speed down into the brake zone for turn 12, and unfortunately the backup car was damaged recently as well, so no backup here at Road America, had to retire for the weekend.
Had to think they would have featured in some respect in the Pro-Am battle with the good results that they've had in some of the recent rounds, but for now it is for the AM lineup to carry the torch. Coming up on just 7 minutes to go, and right here, Charlie Scardina continues to lead the way, actually now up to 8th overall, and this is how he got the move made on Jeff Burton, coming down the front straightaway, got in the slipstream, pulled to the outside, and had that move done before they even got to turn 1.
Yeah, I think Jeff realized he's on the wrong side of the racetrack where the grip was and didn't want to push it, recognizing it's not a car in the same class, so no need to fight it too much. But here is Chandler Hull on the attack. Charlie Luck suddenly, he was in P2, now he's looking at, he might finish off the podium. Hull to the inside. This is turn 3.
Oh, big move there from Chandler Hull. He's able to get to the inside of Charlie Luck. This has all the makings of something that could shake up the points once again, with Hull now demoting the right Porsche down the lineup just a little bit further, both late on the brakes. Luck trying to come back up on the inside. Not close enough. He's going to have to settle back in.
Wow, this is really helping out the combination of Mario Farnbacher and Ashton Harrison. We've been talking about the points gain that they would get on George Kurtz, Colin Brown, our leaders coming into today's race, but it's also really helping them out in that battle for second. We're only 15 points back of the 45 car. And right now, I think they're going to gain 13, 25 for the win. I think it's 12 for 4th right now, so that's a big swing.
Look at their last few results. If it holds for Harrison and Farnbacher, it will be a sweep of the weekend here. A runner-up in race 2 at Watkins Glen. They were only 9th in race 1, but I think it was a puncture that took them out of a very good position late in that race. They have been on form when it matters most and have themselves now sitting in a good position to threaten for the championship with just 3 rounds to go, plus 5 minutes left in this one.
Feeling we're going to have 3 teams within 4 points of one another at the end of the day unofficially, so really tightens things up going to Sebring in the Pro-Am class.
BMW M on board. Chandler Hull just made that move. Remember, he had to do a long stint, and he's doing it on scuffed tires, not the sticker tires. When they elected to try the undercut strategy, it didn't work immediately, but the pace of Hull has been good enough to get them back up on the podium where they have lived this season, Calvin. But crucially, and they are well aware of this, yet to stand on the top step.
Yeah, I know. It's been very, very frustrating. 6 podium runs, including 3 times runner-up finishes. So we're looking at another podium run here today, looking at the gap between Hull and Smithson, 4.5 seconds. That last lap with Hull, I don't think was representative. He's actually about 8 tenths slower than Smithson. We'll see on this clean lap, but he's running out of time, as you can see on the board.
It's right along as he pursues Scott Smithson for that second spot.
Smithson just up ahead, you could see, exiting turn 5. You can see him, he's going to go chase him. He is going to be where are the overall leaders when the clock winds down as to whether he gets an extra lap or whether he gets cut short here.
Always helps when you've got that target to chase, right? It's like the horse with the stick and the carrot dangling in front of it to tempt it to run a little bit faster. That's the situation for Chandler Hull, who has dropped Charlie Luck since making that pass. And now we look, is Aaron Vogel close enough? No, I don't think so. Oh, boy, that could have been disaster, but Charlie Luck kept it pointed straight despite 4 wheels off track.
Yeah, I think he's struggling with the handling here late in the going because his last lap, I'm not sure if that included that off or whether that was the this lap indeed, but a 2:12.5 compared to Vogel's 2:09.9, so 13 seconds back, but that was a 2.5 second delta on that one lap alone.
Here we go. This is a battle here, or is it? No, it's in fact just Ward coming through to put Jeff Burton 1 lap down. So Ward very much in control. Might get the white flag on this next lap. I think it's likely.
Looking at the Smiths on Smithson and Hull, that battle potentially for P2 and Pro-Am, they're pretty evenly matched. Looked like Hull was a little bit quicker sector 1. Smithson had the advantage in sector 2.
Yeah, certainly white flag next time by at this stage. Drop it back to Harrison and Farnbacher. Back-to-back wins, just 2 minutes away. And a new life in the championship that has been topsy-turvy from the word go.
It really has, but they look for their 3rd win of the year. Backing that up with 3 runner-up finishes as well. Had a couple of races where things did not go their way, otherwise they could have firmly been in the championship lead, but they'll be happy with the outcome of this weekend if they can just bring it home from here.
Well, and that shot too, what a contrast, right? It's the highest of highs here for Harrison and Farnbacher. They know they were in the mix, and the car right behind was the hoodless CrowdStrike Mercedes of the erstwhile points leaders, Kurtz and Brown. That picture speaks 1,000 words, doesn't it? That car toiling around with no hood on it. Lots of damage in what has been a very frustrating day, but it's about to come to an end because the white flag does wave above Road America. Russell Ward out in front, a lead of over 30 seconds, and he is en route to his 2nd straight overall win alongside Philip Ellis for the Windward Racing team.
We've said so much heartbreak this year. They just keep focusing forward, taking it in their stride. I know it really kicks you when you're down, when you keep having these moments where you're so close to victory, but they are on a roll right now. Have got the momentum, have the confidence. They have the setup on that Windward Racing Mercedes AMG, and they are delivering big time.
This would be 5 consecutive podium finishes for them. Keep in mind, this is a partial schedule. They were not at NOLA, they were not at VIR, but going back to the 2nd race at Sonoma, pair of podiums at Watkins Glen, now 2 overall wins in the offing here at Elkhart Lake. They are right there on their form, no question about that. Same can be said for Racer's Edge, with George Kurtz gamely fighting on behind, 1 lap down and in 9th in class. This is that picture I was talking about. 2 opposite sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and I think actually, believe it or not, that's how they're going to look in the championship standings tonight, because I believe the 93 is going to be narrowly ahead of the 0-4 combination of Kurtz and Brown.
Wow, just 2 points from 2 races this weekend, it looks like, for Kurtz and Brown, who had been so consistent all year long. But it is just a few corners away. An overall win for the second straight day for this team, this car. Windward Racing has announced itself in recent years on the global stage of GT3 racing, and they write another chapter of that story. Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, Windward Racing sweep the weekend at Road America.
Cut and paste, there's Bryce, his father. Fist pump in the air, just brilliant execution, total domination, totally managed by Philip Ellis there in the opening stint with his tires, extending that gap right before he hit pit lane. Russell Ward did it all right this weekend, ticked every box, superb run.
Now, it's a good day to be a broom salesman because it looks like it'll be a sweep as well for this car. Racer's Edge, the team from DeLand, Florida. New lineup this year, but similar results, possibly even better results. Mario Farnbacher and Ashton Harrison, they won for the second time this season. Yesterday, they win for the second time in as many days today. Racer's Edge on top in Pro-Am. Rocky and crew, they will celebrate this one. That has them right back in the championship hunt. In fact, it should have them in the championship lead.
Yeah, it's going to be tight between them and the 45. Looks like the 04 car going to drop a couple of positions, Ryan.
Now to the AM class. What a season for Triarsi Competizione, running multiple cars most of the season. This weekend was the exception to that due to the crash Justin Wetherill had. Good news, he's okay. Hope to see them back on the grid in Sebring in that Pro-Am lineup with Wetherill and Dial. But there's been no let-up from the other side of the tent, and that is the AM class car right here. And Onofrio Triarsi started it. Charlie Scardina will finish the job. They win once again. Another victory in the AM class for Triarsi Competizione, and it is a clean sweep in all three classes for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS at Road America. Triarsi and Scardina victorious once again. Just 3 races left in the championship. Titles coming into picture. A whole lot to discuss still to come. Don't see it often that the same car, same 3 cars, win both races across their respective classes over the course of one of these weekends.
Yeah, it's wild. But if you got a car that's working and the team can execute and the drivers do their job, that can happen. Certainly for the Windward Racing team, I think their toughest competition was taken out in just the 3rd corner yesterday on the opening round of this championship weekend. And that just opened up the door for them to really dominate this weekend for Windward Racing. I think for Charlie Scardina and Onofrio Triarsi, they will clinch the championship here with another win here today. 100 points left on the table. They came in here with in excess of a 100-point lead, and they win, so that should certainly seal it for them.
Fantastic stuff and well-deserved with the consistency and pace that they've shown. And back to the Pro-Am points, I think I did get ahead of myself. It would be the 45 leading by just a couple tallies ahead of Harrison and Farnbacher. And then right there in the mix too, just another 2 points back, the 04 of Kurtz and Brown. Very much in the frame. What a great 3-way battle that's shaping up to be the rest of the way.
It's going to be awesome.
And the fact that it might just get settled in an 8-hour enduro with a new driver in the lineup too, that could have an impact on how this plays out. The possibilities of that are quite interesting.
Yeah, and the key component could be that 3rd driver. I believe it has to be a bronze driver in the Pro-Am lineup. So finding the super bronze, we talk about super silver as well, the mega bronze may be the key to that success at Indy.
How about the weekend for this young man? Started on pole yesterday for his qualifying session for race 1. Drove a beautiful opening stint, set the table nicely for Philip Ellis. And then Philip did the same, returned the favor for him today. Looked like a nice, tidy run, and getting congratulations from the K-Pax boys. That has to mean a lot.
It does. Really great execution. Disappointed after Watkins Glen not to get the overall victory, but now sweep at overall here.
K-Pax guys will go back to the shop and try and work it out ahead of Sebring. Not the weekend they hoped for. The cars have made it back to Parc Fermé. The race has come to a close, which means it's time to hear from some winners, Shay.
And Russell Ward is getting very accustomed to these winning interviews, having done quite a few of them. 3rd consecutive win in series, 2nd overall. How good does it feel?
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, this is 3 in a row here, 3 in a row wins. So, you know, getting bored of this place, you know, want to move on to something else. No, I'm just kidding. It's always, you know, good competitors here, and you know, we just had the car, you know, to win it, and you know, the crew did an amazing job. Pit stop was perfect. Philip's stint was perfect, and I just had to, you know, bring it home without messing it up. So, pretty easy task for me. But Philip had the thick of it, so he had to hold off Pepper.
Well, but you bring up an interesting point. Bringing it home is a different role for you. What's it like to bring the car to the checkers?
Yeah, look, I mean, usually the best guy brings it home, you know, across the finish line. So that's what I like about this series. We get to alternate. So, no, it's an amazing feeling. I mean, you know, especially since the beginning of this year, all the bad luck we've had, and now we're on top again. So it's an amazing feeling.
Congrats to you and Philip both.
Thank you very much.
Bryce in there as well to help celebrate a great day and a great weekend for his team. CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race as well to this car. Phil Labella set that early in the running, a 2:05.932. That set the standard early, and it made it pretty clear that no one was in the same ballpark as the Windward car.
No.
Back down to Shea. Sorry, Cal. To Shea.
With Ashton Harrison and Mario Farnbacher, who are just disappearing right now, but Racers Edge Motorsport just had a huge landmark because of you two. Team was founded in 1990. This is their 100th win. How does it feel to finally get that done here at Road America?
Oh, that's an honor. I didn't know that. Wow. John.
No pressure.
John.
No pressure.
Well, for you, Ashton, for finishing the race today, it's a different role than we had yesterday. I just asked Russell Ward about it, but what's it like when you're handed over the car and the pressure's onto you to keep it there?
Well, I know I trust Mario, and I know he's always going to give me a good car, and so I had to basically remind myself whenever we get out of pit lane, like, I have one job to do. I know I can do it. We've proven before that we're a great pairing, and so as soon as I left pit lane, my whole job was to just keep it in the front and keep the gap. And I don't even remember what times we were doing. I just remember I kept focusing forward, and it paid off. And so I was really glad to hear that we had a comfortable gap and just bring it home.
John, it's a very impressive thing. 32 years worth of existence, 100 wins in professional sports car racing. How much does it mean to you to have these two drivers as your ones to get it done?
It's just unbelievable. I'm without words right now. It's just incredible experience. I thought I'd be relaxed and calm, but just to have these two drivers do the job they did and just bring it home, just unbelievable, just amazing. And the guys, I mean, the crew, what a crew it takes to accomplish that. A special shout out to Jim, who's been with me a long time, and Nick. Man, the job those guys have done, they're the ones that made this all happen. I'm just lucky.
I think you guys are in the stages of a very big party tonight. Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
John Meraki, very humble, but he deserves a lot of credit, too, for the team he's built, the association he's fostered with Honda and HPD, and they've got a lot of big things in store for the future. Well, exciting day here at Road America. Great to hear from so many happy winners in Victory Lane.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Porsche, Optima Batteries, and Skip Barber Racing School.
Now looking at what's still to come, 3 races as mentioned, 2 of these 90-minute races at Sebring, the 8-hour at Indianapolis. Still so much to play for in 2 of the classes, not so much in AMSHA. They got the job done today, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And well put, Ryan. You guys accomplished a goal today by unofficially securing the AM championship. So how does it feel to finally have that knocked out?
I mean, it's a great feeling, you know. Being a new team in GT3, you know, we have experience in Challenge, but to have this achievement in GT3 for the first year running out here, it feels really good. And the team did a great job putting everything together. It was a lot of hard work to get here, and we're happy with the results.
And Charlie, it had to be nerve-wracking at the end of the race as time was going on and that black mark on the back of the car was getting bigger and bigger, but you always believed in your crew, didn't you?
Listen, I'm glad we finished. It was getting a little bit questionable at the end there, but it held together, and really very happy that we were able to secure a championship together with this guy. So, yeah, props.
Congrats, guys. We'll see you at Sebring.
Appreciate it.
Home track for them coming up at Sebring. Can't wait to see what they can do. You know, they always say a car in victory lane looks beautiful no matter what. This one is straining that assessment, but that said, I think they have a lot to be proud of. Perseverance.
Toasting their victory.
Yeah, a little too literally, perhaps. I wonder, is that something that even gets in the cockpit? Does the cockpit temperature get affected by some of that?
In certain situations, it certainly can, and that can be a real problem with those exhaust fumes. But seems like they survived okay. Charlie was running lap times, even on the last lap, ran a lap time within 0.6 of their best of the day. So he kept pushing and enjoying the experience. Nothing like driving a Ferrari around the 4 miles here at Road America. It truly is a treat.
I can only imagine. Certainly impressive stuff. And again, we talk about the breakout performers of the season, and he's got to be one that comes to the fore. Conrad Grunwald, remember what he did as an AM last year? That got him some big rides internationally. Charlie Scardina might find himself a very attractive proposition, assuming he holds on to that bronze ranking.
He's a tasty bronze, isn't he? Got some pace there.
And there are a lot of doors open in sports car racing for a bronze with some pace. And that's what he's proven to be here in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Well, it's always a shame to say goodbye to this place. It's a magical place to come and visit. Hope that if you've never been here before, you get the chance to sometime. You can't really play this one up enough. Road America, always a favorite for drivers and fans alike, and it put on a great show across 2 days of action here this weekend. Still more to come in the post-race, so stick with us. Closing out day number 2 of SRO America activity at Elkhart Lakes Road America. Again, trips to Sebring and Indianapolis still to come to close out this season. A podium celebration upcoming. That'll be a happy one, to say the least, and maybe a bit more chance to celebrate here after a race on Sunday compared to a race on Saturday, with another one in store the following day. These are the provisional results. Ellison Ward by nearly 30 seconds over K-Pax Racing's Beretta and Caldarelli, who inch closer, at least Caldarelli does, to clinching that championship. Down in third overall, that's where you find the Pro-Am leaders, Ashton Harrison and Mario Farnbacher. Good run for them. Great run for Scott Smithson and Brian Sellers. First podium of the season, and it's a runner-up.
That was huge. Great performance by both drivers, and rewarded with a runner-up finish here at Road America.
This is how it played out. Race 2 of the weekend went green with Philip Ellis leading the way for Windward. They fanned out 2 and 3 wide, and it was Andrea Caldarelli very aggressive early in that black number 1 from K-Pax.
Yeah, he really cut some brilliant moves here on the opening lap to move from P8 all the way up to P4.
You can already see the hood up for Colin Brown. That contact must have happened very early on in the lap, and that put the points leaders, at least they were at the time, on the back foot.
Big move here by Michael Cooper down at the inside on the Triati machine. Elbows are out, cleanly through.
That was reviewed. No action was taken. Now we have this scrap here. This is Goikberg coming through after a drive-through penalty for that car. Made the pass on Frank Gannett. Gannett and Jeff Burton left to their own duel that lasted about 15 minutes. Burton able to prevail ultimately, but Gannett fought on.
Yeah, it was a fun little battle all day long.
Charlie Scardina closing out the race in the M-Class winning car. Made his way back up through the pack overall. Ultimately finished 8th in the overall standings. Made the pass there on Burton, but the win for the second straight day to Windward Racing. Their 3rd consecutive win, 2nd overall, and a 3rd win on the season and 2nd in a row for Racers Edge Motorsports. Ashton Harrison and Mario Farnbacher now find themselves just 2 points shy of the championship lead. All of this provisional, but Charlie Luck and Jan Halen, despite dropping late in the race down to 4th, they do hold on. Actually, they take the championship lead by 2 tallies. Harrison and Farnbacher 2 behind them, then just 2 more back to the 04 of Kurtz and Brown. These are the pro standings here, with Caldarelli leading Pepper by a healthy margin.
Yeah, still going all K-Pax's way. I mean, in terms of the wins right now, Mercedes seem to be the strongest team in the championship, however.
That was certainly true here at Road America. We'll see what Sebring has in store. That's where we'll see you next as the podium celebration commences. We say so long from Road America. And for those of you still with us on the global stream, thanks for sticking with us. Podium celebrations about to commence. We'll see the top 3 in each of the classes, top 2 in the case of the AM class, make their way up onto the podium here at Road America, where so many greats have stood, whether or not it's on this exact piece of real estate. That may have changed over the years, but it is still a prized piece of real estate anytime you come to Road America.
AMG, Scott Smithson and Brian Sellers.
I want to chew on these two results a little bit more. For Hull and Oberlin, it was hard fought, as they all have been this year, but they find a way to get on the podium again.
Yeah, 7th podium out of 10 runs, but they still find themselves like 20-something points back. It's like you put a season together like that, you think we should be the leaders, right? But it's such tough competition in that Pro-Am class.
And we talked about it before. This point system, it does reward winning. A lot of fans like that, right? They want to see winning be what it's all about. Frankly, they have not done that yet. So that is the problem for Bimmer World. They still have 3 races to try and figure that situation out. You know what, though? That does leave them certainly in the conversation for points. I think their biggest challenge is the fact they've got to climb ahead of 3 crews.
Yes, I think that's the important factor there. If they were just chasing one team, you could see a team have a bad weekend like the 04 car did have this weekend, where they didn't score many points at all, and you can have a big swing in points. But when you're looking at 3 teams having issues in front of you, that's a much taller order.
But it can be done if you win races, right? There's that 7-point gap between first and second, and that probably is their roadmap for a championship moving forward. Ashton and Mario celebrating for the 2nd straight day. The other part of this podium, though, is the Smithson-Sellers combo. And we knew what we were going to get this year from Brian Sellers. He's a known commodity. He's a real pro behind the wheel in every sense. Scott Smithson's been quick in everything he's driven, but GT3 has been new for him. This has felt like it was in the offing, but it was a breakthrough weekend today and yesterday, too.
I think it was, and we saw speed immediately this year from Scott Smithson, and now we're starting to see some of those race traits in terms of handling the race situations and the passing opportunities. And I think he's got the personality and drive to really become a force in this championship, he and Brian. Brian's just a great mentor, great co-driver, great with setting up the race car, never seems to make a mistake. And I think this is just reward for a hard season so far. They'll be happy with this first podium of the year.
And not just a podium, but a runner-up finish. It's not like they were just scrapping and clawing only to be on the podium. They were solidly there.
Yeah, and you see he and Billy Oberlin enjoying their dice today. They were in close proximity there right at the beginning. Bill had that bad start, got swamped at the start, had to keep it clean. If he got his elbows out, it was going to be carnage there going down into turn 1. Elected to be a bit more conservative, and then they were on the back foot all day long. But Chandler Hull got on board. As we've seen so often when the M's are on board in these cars, he is one of the best out there and just drove it towards the front and got that podium finish.
His learning curve has been remarkable to watch. I remember seeing him in touring cars, and the speed was there, but maybe it was a little rough around the edges at times. I remember an incident here, actually, in a touring car race, at the start of a race that he was in the middle of, and he's done a nice job of ironing out some of those wrinkles in his game. And now, as you say, finds himself as one of the top AMs when the AMs are in the car.
Speaking of wrinkles, James Safronis, despite his age, doesn't seem to have any.
Isn't that amazing?
I understand that.
Maybe it's the Southern California sun, right?
Good living.
Indeed. This is the AM class podium here. Safronis and Washington. And they'll be smiling. They weren't necessarily on the pace of the Triarci guys, but that's not what this is about. This is about getting Kyle seat time, and he's one of those to keep an eye on in the future because he's getting a lot of time behind the wheel. Give him an off season to digest it all. This could be a guy to watch for a breakout season.
Solid weekend in both GT America and in this championship as well for Kyle Washington. James Safronis is there just to support him. If Kyle wants to run in the combination where you got a driver pairing, he'll certainly fill that seat and do the task. But it's all about mentoring Kyle, giving him the seat time and the experience to, get used to this form of competition. And I thought Kyle's driving with this weekend was super disciplined, very focused, wasn't making mistakes, and that's hard to do on as challenging as this one, particularly in a GT3 car.
Totally agree. Final thoughts, Cal, on the weekend at Road America?
Love it. Just a highlight of my year coming up to Road America. Just love the vibe of the whole environment here. Elkhart Lake, special place. The parade on Thursday, that is something special, and it really just sets up the perfect platform to come here on a 4-mile circuit, which is just incredible. The challenges here, the speeds and everything, a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us from afar. Hope you can be here with us next year. For our entire team, so long from Road America.